Majority of hunters and people, especially in Australia, don't realise how lucky we are. The fact that we can actually harvest any animal of any size at any time of the year and have awesome, organic, grass-fed, free-range meat for our table. I mean, we're just probably one of the luckiest group of people. We don't need to have a tag system. We just need a game license, a firearm license, and a bit of a will to do it. And then you can actually access some really great meat for yourself and for your family. And we're not the mainstream. You know, we're probably the 1%ers, 2%ers, you know. There's not that many hunters in Australia. And the fact that we can actually do that for our friends and family and supply, you know, food, supply meat, it is very primitive and it does have that part about it. And then you realize that, you know, food is actual life, it's essence of life. Everyone does it, everyone cooks, everyone's got a favorite dish, you know, everyone has something that their mum does that is so, you know, dear to them and they just know that's there. So for me, it was just realizing, you know, about food and the journey. And it's one of those journeys, it's endless. And also the best thing about food is there's so many different ways to get to the same end. Like there's no exact way, there's no wrong way. But it's one of those things, it's an endless pursuit. I'm Ross O'Mara. I'm a chef by trade. I've been a chef for over almost 35, 38 years. I've done a couple other things. I've been an author of a few books. My latest one being Wild Meat, which is a book that's on wild game at its purest form, from when you harvest it to actually cooking it, field dressing it, all different recipes of it. And I've got all the different species that you can find in Australia. I'm also someone that's a massive advocate for wild meat, and I just think more of us should be eating it and utilising it as a source and actually put a value on what we have within game hunting and also with wild meat access. So today we're going to be working with a fallow deer leg. Personally, I prefer sambar a lot of the time, but I find fallow great to work with. It's a lot easier, it's smaller, it's also got a really good flavour. I mean, any wild venison is going to be great and you're going to love it. So this leg here, this has been skinned, but when I actually field dress, I actually make sure I leave the skin on and I take them straight off the animal this way. Sometimes I do get a little bit of fur left on it, but then as I'm slowly trimming it off, I'll keep on picking little bits off here and there. This leg here as well, I've got this part here, you will get a gland that's there sometimes. So you want to make sure when you're in the field to get that off as soon as you can. And then once I get it home, I let it set because I find it sets better with the skin on. It doesn't dry out and it doesn't shrivel up. So, and then when I'm ready to prep it, I take the skin off and then I jump straight into it. So first cut here is I'm going to go up this side here. And then I'm going to take this little bit of fat and skin off there. I put that to the side. Anything I put to the side, I'm going to put in ladder to my trim to do my grinding, my mincing. I'll flip it over, hold it up this way. That joint there on the actual knee or the knuckle, I slightly just open that up, and as I'm opening it, I just cut in, and then get through that side there, and then I'll hold this straight and I'll cut straight down. That is your shank. So everyone knows shanks. You know, slow cook them, you can stew them, you can curry them. You can also use that for mince, and it works really well if you're that way inclined. This one here as well, you've got the tendon. Tendon can be slightly chewy to cook, so you can trim that off there, trim that up here. And if you want to get fancy with your knife work, you can cut around there, or if you've got a little hacksaw, you can cut that top off, and that's your shank there ready to go for the pot. Once I take the shank off, I've then got that part of the haunch, or what I call the haunch is the back end part of the venison. You've got the bone that runs from there to there. So the first cut I do is I come in down on that join bone there, and I just come in on the side of it till I actually hit the bone, and then I cut up along. Once I do that, it opens it up there. I then cut around here, and as I'm cutting, I can then see as it opens up a little bit of sinew, and then that completely opens up as I cut down the sinew. And this is probably one of my favorite steaks of venison, and it's the top side. So the top side is this inside triangle part. It is listed as one of the prime cuts of venison, and it's that triangle part there. There's a little bit of trimming to do, not much. You've got a little bit there, goes to mince. You've also got, here we'll just move that to the side. You've got this top part here, where once you get this off, it'll actually give you a little bit more of an idea of the actual cut. And you can see I just kind of little flicks of the knife there just to use the sinew, and then I'll just use my hands, get that in. And then cut down there. There we go. This part here, then again, that'll go into mince as well. And that's my top side there. You'll find that it is separated into two little pieces. And then you can trim this around to trim it up and ready to go. This one today, we're going to be making schnitzels out of this. I find top sides great for the schnitzels, but also too, I find the top sides great to be able to grill whole as a whole piece. I just season it up, salt and pepper, throw it on some charcoal, slow cook it. Keep on turning and turning and turning. And it's one of those bits of meat, you want to let it rest. And then it just sets beautifully. And then when you carve it, as you can see, the grain runs this way. So you always want to cut it and carve it that way against the grain. Right, so we'll sit this one to the side there. Then I go back in onto my bone. I cut this section here away. Now up here, you'll get another knuckle that goes around there, which is attached to that part. Cut there, cut around here. And then once I get that, I go under that. And then I cut back on, and then I'll pull the bone off. If you like to make stocks, you've got plenty of bones to make stocks. If you've got a hungry dog, they're good for the dog as well. That's your bone there. Now we've got these pieces here, and then what I do is I cut straight across the top here. That's my rump. So the rump, I cook this many different ways. I'll slice it, cook it in steaks. I'll grill it, same as I would the top side, cook it whole. Or as we're going to do today, we're going to twice cook it. So this is one of my favorite cuts to do that. I find when I twice cook it, it keeps its moisture. It goes all stuffed and crunchy and sticky. And I find you can just cook it in a lump of meat, and then you can start stripping into it and eating it that way. And it's just great. Great to put on the table. And then if you look here, so as you can see with most of the stuff here on the leg, this is all sinew work and just all strips in between. So you're not actually cutting too much into the meat. And then I cut down here, and that's it. These are my other two cuts. This here is the silverside. The silverside, some other people call it a sirloin steak or other parts. You can actually cut and grill it. It does have a little bit of a sturdy chew. I personally, and as we'll be doing today, I like to cure this, dry cure, a simple cure, and then I like to cook it. So I like to corn it and cook it. To me, once I do that, I cook it for breakfast. I'll slice chunks off, cook it with eggs, and I just find it's just such a really good piece of that. It also dices up great, so if you ever want to do a curry or a stew or a braise, it's a really good cut for that as well. That goes there, and then you've got your round. So the round here, it is a little bit of a trim here, but same again, you know, if you follow the sinew lines and just come around, that will just take that off here and there. And then, so the round steak is a good grillable steak. Same again, does have a little bit more of a chew than a backstrap or an eye fillet, but then everything does. I think a lot of us have forgotten that certain meat you do actually have to chew, where we've all gone for the softer cuts. This part here, take that top part off too. Just trim that down. And that there. And here is, if you've heard people say, so that's all for your mince, that is your little round roast. Or you can cut it that way and do your round steaks. I find if I ever want to do like a really good pie or a really good pie mix, I cut it down along these sides here like that, and then I sear it like I would an osso buco or a lamb shank with a little bit of flour, salt, pepper, red wine, and then I slow braise it. And I find this meat is the best part for any type of pie mix, even if you're going to make a nice good stout and Guinness pie. Then again, also too, it's really good mince. I mean, look at that, it's lean, it's clean. I find venison mince, when I'm eating it, I've gotten used to it because I've been eating it for quite a long time. And I've found now I've gone to a finer mincing blade, which actually gives me a better quality product. And also too, the leaner it is, I still find it's really easy to actually chew and digest without actually adding any fat to it. And I just love the taste of venison mince now, and so does the family. So even within this part, all these trims and all the part of the meat, if you don't have a mincer, you can always hand dice stuff. It does take time. It's one of those things that you can go through. So here, this is some venison mince. So this is what I eat a lot of. This has got no added fat to it. A lot of people have that misconception of venison. It's all gamey and it's really heavily like, you know, flavored, and there's a lot going on. It is really basic meat. And also too, you know, with the way that we're preparing meat nowadays, it's always got a better flavor. But as you can see, that's quite lean. There's not much fat in that at all. I myself have put this through the finest mincing die that I can, and I find it's great. And even you look at that, like for binding, even if you're like thinking that you've got to put so many flavors in to cover up the meat, you don't have to. I will grab that as it is, without even any binder or any filler or even eggs or stuff like that. And I'll just smash that down, put salt, so like have it like a smash patty, or even just grill that, and then I'll put a couple of eggs on it. And I just keep it at its base form, just a tiny little bit of salt. If you want to add some garlic and butter and other things, I mean, you go for it, or herbs or spices. I don't need to, and I find it's just as good on its own. But as you can see like that, the way it binds and it comes together, it is lean. And it does take a little bit of getting used to, because you might think it's a little bit dry, but it still cooks up great. And you can either keep that nice and pink too, so it's still got a little bit of moisture. So this is my take on a burger. As you can see, it's just straight venison mince. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated or crazy. I mean, the old KISS thing, keep it simple. This one, I just straight in the pan. I'll season it in the pan with a little bit of salt and pepper. And yeah, for me, it's already bound, it's ready to go. I don't need to add anything else to it. It's just pure venison. Look at that great crust on them there. Look at that. It's like a store-bought one. Straight venison, nothing better. This is how we do the corn silverside. So as you can see this piece here, I like it with that little bit of fat and the sinew and also the girollo attached. So then what I do is I then make a dry cure mix of 60% salt to 40% sugar. I use just plain sea salt, no anti-caking agent, and I use just brown sugar. And then I will cryovac it. If you've got a vacuum sealer, that's great. Or even if you've got a Ziploc bag, or even if you've got a container that you can marinate and throw it around and turn it over. I then, for every 500 grams, I do it for 1 day. So after the piece is weighed, I then calculate how many days I need to do it. I put it in the fridge, and after each day I turn it. And as you can see, the actual cure breaks down, causes a little bit of a slurry, and it slowly permeates the meat and it actually corns the meat. Once I get to that stage there, I then remove the meat, put it into a pot, I cover it to where it's at the stage with water. I then add some malt vinegar, I put bay leaves, garlic, and dried peppercorns. I do use dried garlic I find for most of my things like this. I find it just a little bit more stable. You can use fresh garlic or whatever you want. I just prefer to use that. I then will put that on and slow cook that for 2 to 3 hours until the meat tenderizes, and then you can take it out, you can eat it hot, you can put it in your fridge, store it as cold meat, or you can either warm it back up, eat it with the old mashed potatoes, parsley sauce, or anything you want. There is a recipe for corned wallaby, I think, in my book, which is the same principle, same method. So I'll grab the bag here, just cut it like so. I'll remove that there, just wipe off that excess. I'll remove this, place that into the pot. I'll then place my aromats through. I'll then add a good healthy couple of tablespoons of vinegar. Now I find too, I don't need to add salt and sugar to that water because I find there's already plenty enough that I've actually had in the bag and it's cured enough. Then what I'll do is I'll top that with water till it's just covered, and then I'll slow cook that for 2 to 3 hours. So we'll check on the silverside here. Okay, here we go. So you can see it shrunk quite a bit, but that's the piece there. So this one here would be perfect to, let's have a look. We'll just cut. Oh yeah. So that's already good now to cut into it and then to fry it. So as you can see there, bit of a grey meat syndrome, but you can then let that cool. You can cut it and refry it and then serve it like that. Or you can keep this on and slow cook it. And then it'll get to that texture where it'll slowly get softer and softer and softer, and then you can pull it apart. And then you could have it like a corned beef hash, or even as it is now, you could pull it out, slice it, and have it with the traditional trimmings, you know, like you would like with just corned beef, you know, cabbage and potatoes and a bit of parsley sauce. But You know, there's another way to use your venison leg, and it's just a nice big chunk of corned meat. So we're going to make the schnitzels out of the top side. You can use backstrap, top side. You can even use cube or chuck or whatever you want, but these are probably the nice ones to use. I'm going to trim them up a little bit. So I'm just going to take a little bit of these sinew lines off. Not crazy amounts. That'll go into my mince. And I'll just cut them into decent sized little chunks like that. I like little nuggety ones, so I'm not going to make them too big. All right, then we got this one here. Just going to take that bit of sinew off there. Take this little dry piece off there. I'll go fine. Trim that one down. Okay. And there's just this one here on that side. And then this one here. There we go. There we go. So, this one again, nothing too crazy. All right. So, once we cut them up like this here, then we go into the best part, which is bashing them out. When you're bashing meat out, I like to use the corrugated side. You can use the flat side of a little meat hammer, but all what you want to do is just like that, just trying to break that structure of it, just so it just tenderizes it, makes it a little bit softer. Some people as well, when they tenderize, they like to put it in like a little bit of paper or cling wrap to keep it nice and neat and to not make a mess. I like to make a mess, and also too, I prefer the actual result. I prefer is when after you beat it without anything on it, it just breaks it up a little bit better, I find. This is the crumbing mix that I use. I just use plain flour, egg wash. I use a tiny little bit of milk in there and just eggs. And as I do it, I also use one hand from the flour to the egg and one from the egg to the breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs I use are panko breadcrumbs. I just like them. I just find them a little bit crunchier. And some people like to season their flour. I don't like to season my flour. I like to season it while it's in the pan afterwards. And when I'm cooking it in the pan too, I tend to use butter or lard. I prefer to, than oil. There you go, we just dip that one in. Some people also like to double dip. I don't. I find one layer is enough of crumbs. It's enough for me. And if you can get it going, you can actually get them going at both at the same time. Okay. Shall we take a bite? That's good. So here, this is the rump. So like I said before, the rump's great. You can roast it. You can even dice it up, stew it, do whatever you want with it. But this is probably one of my favorite ways to cook. Not only do I like to do the rump like this, but I like to do the neck and all other working muscles like cuts. It just seems to come up so well. And I also find if you can just cook it this way as well, you can just put that one piece of meat in the center of the table and let everyone just pick at it. It's great if you're doing like rice and beans or tacos or even like nachos, and you can just sit there and scatter it through. So what I do is I cryovac it. So that's my vacuum sealer. I put the rump in it like this. I then put that in a pot of water, bring it up to the boil, turn it down to simmer, and I slow cook it. So then I cook it for about 2 hours. As that cooks, the liquid from the meat goes out into the bag and then breaks through, i.e. it's sous videing. But you can do it without a sous vide one, and I find it breaks down the protein better. But if you've got a sous vide one, you can do the same thing. This is the end result. So there you've got all that liquid there, which is straight meat juice, and then the meat, if you feel it, all the protein's broken down. So it's all there ready to go. And then what I do is I'll throw it in the bowl, salt, bit of pepper, same as I normally do. I'll throw in a little bit of liquid, and then I'll throw it straight on the fire, grill it up, char it, get it nice and crispy on the outside, and the soft will still stay moist, and then it's there ready to go. See how it goes now. Take that up there. Give it a go straight direct in the heat. So the actual main principle behind cooking this one is a lot of salt on the outside, and then just keep on turning it. And as you can see, the outside's just starting to crisp up, and then the inside will start getting up to eating temperature and a safe temperature to eat. But all the cooking's been done. So it's just a matter of, as a friend calls it, turning and burning. And with the salt, if you notice, I'm putting a lot on. And you might think that's, oh, look at all that salt, it's gonna that. But as you see when I turn it, it all kind of stays on a little bit, forms a little bit of a crust, but then a lot of it will fall off. But we'll just keep this going. As you can see, even that, it's starting to break down that little bit. You can see it's just starting to move through. So this doesn't take that long, and then it's just colouring it, getting ready to that, and then we can slice it up, get a little bit of chimichurri on it, and eat it up. It's just basic. Food is not overcomplicated, and it doesn't have to be. You know, food's just one of those things, you know, it's like it is simple, and it doesn't have to be overdriven and too much going on to it. That's what we want. But once it starts getting to that stage there, that's when you know it's all ready to go. Chimichurri. It's a fire grilled meat. Get that on there.
That's really good. It's got the lovely charred venison, sharpness of the chimichurri, still moist, really tender, can't beat it.